being here on the Saturdays and taking your time out to participate in extra classes. I appreciate it very much, young man. Okay, so we're gonna pick up from where we left off with the pregnant women. I can send you the link to the notebook, right? If you want to look at it while I'm typing. All right, there's the link. All right, so yeah, we're gonna pick up from where we left off, which is proteins. Let's go back here. Right, the activity was for you to give me 2 reasons why a mother would need plenty of proteins, and I said, give me a definition using amino acids, and then another definition using proteins. But that's neither here or there. I'm just glad you read over your notes. So we're gonna pick up from there, and we're gonna go to the next nutrient, which is carbohydrates. Did you touch carbohydrates in your classes this week?
Answer in the previous test, we're talking about vitamins and minerals in the previous classes.
Okay, good. So you haven't touched carbohydrates yet?
You have, sir.
You have? Okay, good. So did you touch fiber?
Yes, sir.
All right, so you finished the entire topic? That means you have finished the entire topic then. So we can move on to the next topic then. All right. So let's go to today. Let's create a new topic. So since you have finished the entirety of the different types of nutrients, I wouldn't want to repeat or be a voice box to repeat what has been done already. I'd like for you to continue and be advanced, so when you're preparing for your classes, you're actually ahead. So we're going to actually move from vitamins and salts, right, and go exactly into different types of vitamins. Did you learn about the different types of vitamins?
Yes, sir. Vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin C, vitamin D.
And you know the disease that you can get if you don't have a proper amount of vitamin D, correct?
Yes, sir.
Rickets, all right. What's the disease for vitamin C?
Scurvy.
And the disease for vitamin B?
Beriberi.
Perfect, good job. And the last one, what is the disease for vitamin A?
Night blindness.
Excellent, Khalil. I'm very proud of you. Good job. Okay, did you touch water yet? Exactly the definition of water and how it is a nutrient to our body.
I said we discussed it on Thursday, sir.
Oh, you discussed it. All right. So, do you know what a definition of a hydrolyzed food is? Yeah, hydrolyzed. Let me spell it. Hydro.
No, sir.
All right. So that's what we're gonna pick up today. So head up for me. The functions of water. Right. Let me create a table. So I'm gonna create a table. Here we go. And your table should look exactly like this. Can you see my table, Khalil?
Yes, sir. Yes.
All right. So I'm going to start typing. Huh? Okay. I'm going to start typing functions of water. You should be able to see it, right? Functions of water. The first function, all right? So this is the heading, really. So we're going to put this as our heading. There we go. Under functions of water, to form part of all body fluids. Right? Form part of all body fluids. Second function, it acts as a solvent. You can use it to cook food for the body. And finally, cleaning and personal hygiene. All right, have that, Khalil?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. Now, give me, so it's going to be on your part now to give me some examples of what do you use water for in your body fluids. Give me some examples of body fluids that needs water. Quickly.
Body fluids, sir?
Yeah? So like, where do you see water in the case of body fluids?
In your digestive system, sir?
Right, but I want to give me an example of something that you produce every day. Like, for example, let me give you one. Blood. That's a body
sir.
fluid. So we can say blood. You remember another example?
Sir.
Huh? Anyone?
Urine.
Yes, good. Urine. And then you can just take out these for me. Tissue fluid. Tissue fluids. So I have blood, urine, and tissue fluids. Okay? Now, as a solvent, water is basically dissolving, as you said before, digestive unit, right? So water acts as a solvent in our digestive system. Right, listen to me? It dissolves nutrients, right, during digestion. So this is the part of the body now that basically when you eat, the water now acts as like a storage location for where the nutrients get pulled and dissolved through. Right?
Yes, sir.
Now, these other two are just simply everyday use. So we can just simply say to produce food, boiling and soften, my bad, boiling and soften, right, food. Why would we need to boil our food?
So we can eat it, sir.
Right, but in case of bacteria, bacteria cannot survive at 100 or 97 degrees depending on your altitude, but that bacteria now can't survive in that amount of heat. So when we boil food, we're actually killing bacteria so that we're okay. So we say boiling and soften food to destroy pathogens, right? Highlight that word for me, pathogens. And the final one, we're gonna say cleaning and personal hygiene. If you're not clean every day, Khalil, do you feel motivated? Do you feel like you're ready to work? No. So when you have a personal sense of hygiene, right, your body actually thanks you. You become more positive. So we say by washing your body, right, doing laundry, and when you get older, Khalil, your mom will be asking you to do laundry, so not to worry what laundry is. And then doing the dishes. So these are just some functions of water. And you get asked them in exams. So I just want to ensure that you have these. Wait, my bad. 1 second. Let me just put. Oh, here we go. So I'm gonna put some examples above here. There we go. So your columns should look like this, okay, Khalil? Should have functions of water, then some examples. Sounds good?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now the next thing that we're gonna go into now is what I was talking about a while ago, where I said hydrolyzed food. So we're gonna define key terms. Defining key terms, right? Solvent. I just made a definition a while ago, but let's go into exactly what solvent is. A solvent basically is a storage location, right? So we can say a solvent is really a storage and a fluid that transports, right? That transports key nutrients through the body. So, right? So a solvent is a storage and a fluid that transport key nutrients through the body. An example, blood, right? Let me give you an example why blood. You see the reason why you bleed, Khalil? Your body's actually trying to, whenever it bleeds, trying to solve the problem of why you got cut. So when you expel blood, it's really trying to build back the scar that is there. But the issue is, if it's the cut is too deep now or too big of a hole to rectify, the body will just produce too much blood, and that will not really prevent the bleeding. So essentially, when you have a little cut, Khalil, do you ever see like a little notch of blood come and just stop there at the opening?
Yes, sir.
That's basically where it's building back the tissues that have been cut, and it's just using blood to cover the wound, essentially. So the blood transports some key nutrients that is able to now build back the tissue in your hand or in the small paper cut you got. Right? Then the next term I want to define is hydrolyzed food. Let me check if anyone is in the waiting room. All right? No one is in the waiting room. I think there should be some prize for you, Khalil, for always coming to extra classes, and I'll try to figure out how to do that. You do need to be recompensated because you've been here every week, and I really applaud you for that. Right? Hydrolyzed food now. Hydrolyzed food, write it for me. Evaporation of water from hold on 1 second. Hydrolyzed food, right? When food right, has been introduced with water, we say it is hydrolyzed, where essentially ions and nutrients are obtained. All right. Now, did your teacher go through balanced diet?
Yes, sir, he did.
All right, let's move on then. All right. Did he go through what do you use to measure calories?
No, sir.
All right, let's go through that. So we're gonna say how to measure calories quickly. Calories. Okay. A calorimeter can be used to examine, for example, food that contains an amount of nutrients, like spelled a little bit differently, but this is spelled correctly. I guess it's just American terminology. Right? So calorimeter. I'll get a diagram for you. Let's go for a diagram. Calorimeter. Let's go for a diagram real quick. All right, here we go. Perfect. All right, good. So you should be able to see this diagram now, Khalil. Right? Can you see the diagram?
Yes, sir, I'm able to see.
All right, good. So we're going to say what this calorimeter does, right? It essentially, let me just grab this definition. It measures heat reaction let's go here. There we go. Right. So it's a process of measuring the heat of chemical reactions or physical changes, as well as heat capacity. So, for example, if you had like a food, like cashews or like some sort of staple food, right? You could measure how many energy essentially is in amount of grams of that food. That's where calorimeter comes into play. So say for example, cashew nuts, right, contain 2,300 kilojoules per 100 grams. So this is an example of what that means. It contains a specific amount of energy per 100 grams. If you eat the 100 grams, Khalil, what is this essentially stating about the energy?
I guess it has 100 calories.
No, it's saying that you intake X amount of energy. You intake 2,300 kilojoules. The kg means kilojoules. We'll learn about that more. I just want to introduce it to you because it is in the textbook. All right? So that's how you really measure calories in heat energy. My bad. Calories in heat energy. All right? So the next topic I want to get into. Did he speak about nutrients and energy for different people?
Nutrients and energy, sir, for different age groups, sir?
Right.
No, sir, he did not.
He did not? Okay, good. So, we're going to just quickly talk about what is a metabolic rate. Right? Your body needs energy. Even when you are not doing a physically demanding activity such as running. Wait, no. Even if you're not doing a physically demanding activity such as sleeping, right? Because when you sleep, you don't really run or anything. When you're sleeping, your body still needs energy to do this task. So we say basically, right? The low rate of, let me highlight this. The low rate of activity is called the basic metabolic rate. So what is he saying, Khalil? When you're not doing anything, whatever your body is doing in that moment, that's your basic metabolic rate. So if you're sleeping, based on the amount of energy that you need, right, for your body to keep making you sleep, right, that is called your basic metabolic rate. Understand?
Yes, yes, sir.
But it's not only for sleeping that metabolic rate comes into play. Other tasks, such as breathing, right? Breathing, sleep, crying, right, etc., all contribute to any form of movement needed for the requirements of the body's metabolic rate. So, what you generally see happening, Khalil, people generally say, oh, I'm this size in weight because of my metabolic rate. I can't really be slim because of the way I process foods. That is true in some extent, but their view is obscured, or is obscured, I should say, because they're forgetting that they do other tasks that require a metabolic rate as well. When they breathe, if they breathe deeply, all right, that is actually contributing to what your movements of the body requires from your body metabolic rate. So if your metabolic rate is high, do you think you're gonna get a lower weight, or you're gonna be bigger in size? So if your body is able to do more physically demanding activities at an easier rate? You think you're gonna be getting a lot of pounds, or you're gonna be losing weight?
Losing weight.
Exactly. So let's write this. Some body types and people need more energy giving foods, right, than a typical office worker who sits every day. Human metabolism involves many things, right, which shows how easily someone can absorb food compared to others. Because I had this friend, right? I was on a diet. This friend usually eat 2 box food every day at school. He never gained any weight, right? Because of his metabolism rate, because of the environment he grew into. Khalil, like for example, he had to raise cows. He had to wake up 6 o'clock in the morning, every morning, and raise cows and tie up the goats and everything. So in those activities, right, his body kind of demanded more from him. So that's when he decided to eat more food that would substitute for the energy he expelled in the mornings. Right? So it's not a case that, oh, he's lucky and he just can't eat a lot more. Because of the activities he does demands more than what I would do, for example, like just writing notes. I don't really go outside and hang out goats and everything. He does that. So his body requires more energy giving foods, and that results into his absorption level of the food he eats. Understand?
Yes, sir.
There's a graph that I want you to look at, Khalil. It's very interesting to look at. But here's what I'll do. I'll take a picture of it, right, and I'll put it here. Then after now, you're gonna basically revise it. It's very interesting. It tells you, for example, at what age your common absorption level would be. How much energy do you need per day to really sustain your weight, right? But I'll give you that energy requirement graph after class. Very interesting. It even tells you your age. It tells you exactly how much energy you need, Khalil, to eat, and then you'll basically survive after that. If you want to lose weight or gain weight, you can just observe that graph. Okay, we talked about a little bit about kwashiorkor and the other disease, but I want to ask you, are those nutrition diseases in terms of if you eat too much, you get those diseases, or is it a case where if you don't eat too much? So the kwashiorkor,
Hello?
yeah. Can you remember the kwashiorkor? Was it as a result of them eating too much or not eating at all?
Not eating protein at all.
Right. So we say this is an event of malnutrition. Did you go to malnutrition?
Yes, sir, we did that.
All right, good. All right, we can skip that then. Did you talk about the importance of exercise?
We did, sir.
All right, good, excellent. Did you talk about the events of not exercising, such as hypertension and osteosclerosis?
Hello, sir, we did that.
All right, so we're going to talk about the results of not exercising. All right, two main things come up. Hypertension. One of my family members had this. It was very sad. Hypertension, right? This is where scientifically right, the diameter of arteries, and you put it arteries, right, shrinking, which causes high blood pressure. high blood pressure. And I'm gonna go for a little diagram to really explain what this is basically meaning. Okay? Shrinking. Right. Let me go for a diagram, Khalil. 1 second. 1 second. I know you love this diagram. Here we go. I'm gonna search for it. Shrinking. 1 second. Right. One second. Hypertension. GIF. Okay, excellent. Okay, now look at this diagram for me, Khalil. This essentially shows you what happens when you have hypertension. Can you see it? The results of not exercising. So what is happening here, right? The diameter, which is the exact size of the artery, right, starts to shrink. And because the blood is still flowing, right, it causes some pressure to build up in the arteries itself. So what that does, it expands the valve itself and it starts to cause a problem in the body. So this is called hypertension. But what causes hypertension? Right? What causes this swelling in the arteries? What? Yeah, you're correct. But it's if you look at not just exercise, because remember, there's two things happening: your diet, right, and how you exercise. But if you look at the diet perspective, what happened to your diet that caused you to have hypertension? Not just not exercising. So what causes hypertension in the case of your diet? And I want you to be very careful of this. Put diet in bracket. We're going to talk about it. So you eat something that caused you to have a blocking essentially in your arteries, right? Look at this for me. Overeating, KFC, I'm just kidding. Overeating, animal fats, right? Which become laid out in the arteries and block passages causes is called, write this for me, ATHEROS, right? Sclerosis. Atherosclerosis. So this is what causes hypertension. When you eat animal fats now, those things now get laid out in the arteries, which basically it minimizes the amount of space that was in there in the first place, right? So if you and your friends are walking down the aisle and nobody decides to move, right? Can everyone just run freely and not get bumped into you guys?
No, sir.
Exactly. So that's what happens now. If you eat animal fat and it just gets it stops in the artery passages, right? That prevents the blood flow from going as it should. So it builds up some pressure now because it's still going at the same rate in a smaller diameter, basically, right? So that causes now some buildup of pressure, which basically gives you hypertension, which is called high blood pressure. All right, good. So let's move on then as to what is done for people that have diabetes and obesity. How do we go about remedying the issue of hypertension in them? Right? I want to look at this very carefully, Khalid. And if you have any members of your family that do have diabetes or obesity, please tell them this. Right? Diabetes is associated with obesity. Diabetes. So if you're not fat or if you're not overweight, that doesn't mean that you're not having the repercussions of an obese type diet. Right? Diabetes is associated with obesity. Look at this.
So, can I ask a question, sir?
Uh-huh.
As I said, did you get the subscription to Zoom, sir?
I didn't, but I'm recording my thing outside of Zoom, so not to worry. So I'll give you the recording after class. But I think one of your classmates have a subscription to Zoom, so he could probably start recording for you, if you so desire. I think it's Rohit or Rahul, one of them. Okay, so if you have anybody that in your family has diabetes, Khalil, very important that you share them with this. Tell them that diabetes is associated with obesity, even if you're not obese. You are not obese, you still follow an obese-like lifestyle. So it might be a case where, oh, your metabolism just expelled you from having a bigger body size, but you're still having the effects of an obese-like lifestyle, right?
As I have a question, sir, this, as I said, does it fall under what are the resources of not exercising, sir?
Right. So that's what we're going to talk about. Exactly. So we're looking really as to what really happens when you're diabetic and obese, and how does it relate to exercising. Understand? So we're telling you really, if you look at diabetes, to understand what is happening, we're looking at it with a microscope. And then we're going to tell you that to solve this issue, exercising and proper dieting comes into play. Right? So when you have diabetes, as I said, it puts a strain on the skeletal system, just like an obese person would, right? And your joints suffer, then becoming right, stiff and worn. So that's why doctors usually generally say, don't have a free range of exercises you do when you're diabetic. That isn't solving the problems, because here's why, Khalil. Your skeletal system is suffering, right? Right. So it wouldn't be sense to really continue in your own types of exercising. There are specific types of exercises now that would have solved the problem. Then you're just working out. Next thing is obese persons, right? So what is done for people that have obesity? What is done for people that have obesity, right? Obese persons are put on a diet that has very low joule. Remember what I said about joule is basically energy. Joule values, right? So if they put on low energy food, right, that reduces the amount of energy the body has to work with. And remember what I said about not exercising, right? If the body has lower amount of energy to work with, right, then that means it can begin to abscond the weight that it has already. Right? So obese persons are put on a diet that has low joules values, right? But ensuring still that they obtain adequate protective food. Highlight protective food for me. So your first activity, Khalil, is your first activity. Hashtag activity. What are protective foods. It's the first activity. Okay. So that's that for the first two. Let's move into now what we have next. All right. Did you go into anorexia nervosa? Khalil?
Yes.
Did you talk about anorexia nervosa?
No, sir.
Right. Write that down for me. Let me spell it for you. Amo. It's a very important topic. We're gonna put anorexia nervosa. Right? Which is basically some illness. I wouldn't say illness because that's an offensive word. I would say some drawbacks people have to eating. For example, do they have a fear of eating while they're not having a proper diet? Right? So anorexia nervosa, people with an obsessive fear of gaining weight. We see this every day. Of gaining weight. Right? Even though they are themselves thin. Right? They choose to eat very little food. All right.
That's right. That's true.
Do you remember when you asked me the question last week, why do these children have big bellies?
Yes, sir.
Right. It's the same thing that happens here. We can't necessarily explain it in terms of like normal speech, because here's why. We do things that we question and we don't have an answer for even already. Like you do some things and you probably question yourself, why do I do this? Right? But in their case, the best answer I can give you, Khalil, is just because it's a fear. Do you fear lizards, Khalil?
Not real, sir.
What animal do you fear?
Dogs.
Dogs. So picture this illness as their dog. They know it won't hurt them. Like, you know, the dog won't kill you. Or probably do, but that's probably another case. But they know the dog or the food themselves won't cause them to gain weight. But because they fear it, right, that get locks off and it just shown just as fear. You know it won't hurt you or kill you, but you still fear it. So you still prevent yourself from even going close to it. So that's what happens with their case. They are afraid of gaining weight, so they prevent themselves from eating very little food to ensure they don't gain weight. It's a little bit of a interesting thing because we do it every day, but these are just the broad ones that we see in actuality, where people are actually scared of eating food. All right, so that's called anorexia nervosa. So I want you to use this in your next class. Show them that you've been learning in extra classes, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, now the next one is called bulimia. Right? We're not talking about bullying a child. We're talking about how eating disorders come into play. So these are just eating disorders. I should have put that, my bad. Eating disorders. That is the topic. My bad, Khalil. Eating disorders. I want to put these in smaller fonts. There we go. Smaller fonts. So yeah, the first one is anorexia nervosa. And the second one is bulimia. All right? Let me number them. There we go. So bulimia now. This is opposite exactly of anorexia nervosa. Obsessive, all right, and excessive eating. Huh? We call this binge eating. You know when you binge watch a show on Netflix, we call this binge eating, right? Oh, I typed binge watching. Binge eating, my bad. All right? Sometimes these persons physically prevent themselves from digesting the food by vomiting it up. Prevent themselves from vomiting the food, from digesting the food, my bad, by vomiting it, right? Or taking laxatives, which is basically something that free your bowels, Khalil, so you can get rid of what you eat quicker. All right, so let me just define laxatives. So something that you take, so laxatives, something that can free bowels, free your bowel movements at a quicker rate. So if you want to use a bathroom, but you're a little bit bung up, take a laxative, solves it for you. But bulimia essentially is the exact opposite of anorexia nervosa, because these persons actually eat the food, right? It's just a case where they vomit it up before they digest it, right? Now, what happens why they don't gain weight? So why they do not gain weight? Do not gain weight. They obsessively either work out, right, or take diuretics, which is basically some diet pills, diuretics, because they feel guilt of eating so much. So these persons don't have a distinct fear towards eating, right? They just have a guilt towards after eating, right? So we say they eat, but then they physically prevent themselves from digesting it by vomiting, taking laxatives, or using diuretics, as well as working out as well. So there's 4 different things that they can do to ensure they don't digest the food. Now the next one is anorexia. Right? Anorexic. So you're gonna define for me as a homework over here. Hashtag activity. Define anorexia and tell me what are the causes. Right? Now, the final thing I want you to understand, Khalil, eating orders are is an example of a mental illness in actuality. Right? So we can say in summary, having an eating disorder, right, is a form of mental illness which creates serious associated problems. Khalil, give me an example of what could come about if you're anorexic. No, if you're bulimic. What happens to your friends? What happens to your life on a whole? Give me an example of what do you think will happen.
Sir, you will not. And sir, you will not be able to.
Right, okay, yes, you're correct. Right?
Sir, I saw some question one in the way.
Can you repeat?
Sir, I saw some question one in the way.
I'm not sure why. But I spoke to the principal about it, and I'm just waiting on a reply. Right? Well, not to worry, because as long as we are continuing to do what we need to do, you have to get 100. You have to. Okay. So now we're going to talk about causes. So your activity is to define anorexic people, tell them what the cause is, as well as let's see, what initiate activity again. What initiates these illnesses? Example, right? Low self-esteem. self-esteem. Right? That was eating disorders. Excellent. And then the final summary is that having eating disorder is a form of mental illness which creates serious associated problems. All right, excellent. The next thing, and we're going to go through Khalil, is going to be causes of malnutrition. Did you go through that?
Yes, sir.
Good, good. Now, you're at the final point then. Did you discuss valuable diets? Like food that are valuable to your body, such as eggs and milk? Khalil?
What say, sir?
Did you discuss valuable diets? Key foods that are important to your body? Like egg, milk, and so forth. Did you discuss that?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. So that means we can summarize essentially the topic. Write this for me. Special food requirements for infants, adolescents, and pregnant women. If you have done that already, just let me know. But I don't think you have. Well, just let me know. Did you talk about the fact that infants need protein, calcium, and vitamin D?
Yes, sir.
Did you talk about the fact that old age persons need a lesser intake of macronutrients?
No, sir, we have.
All right, so let's discuss that. Okay, so write this table for me, or just continue your table that you have originally. So we're going to start from expectant mothers.
What say, sir?
We're going to start from expectant mothers and discuss what proteins do they need. Then we're going to go to old persons. Right? So expectant mothers, they need protein, calcium, right?
What is the topic, sir?
We're going to say special food requirements. My bad, let me write it. Special food requirements. Let me put it in. There we go. Special food requirements. So expectant mothers need protein, calcium, vitamin D, phosphates, and carbohydrates. We're going to put reason, right? For growth. So this is the answer for the questions that I gave you last week, Khalil. So not to worry. So we're going to say for growth of the body, right? For growth of the baby's bones, and extra energy for carrying the baby. Right? That's good. Next one, I'm gonna say lactating mothers. We're gonna wrap up to talk about old age persons. Lactating mothers, right? They really
lactating mothers, sir.
Lactating mothers are basically mothers that have given birth and they are breastfeeding. So we can put breastfeeding in quotations or brackets. Breastfeeding. Right? We can say now quantities need further increase from expectant stage. Essentially that. Right? Next one, what type of energy or food requirements do you need at a mature age? Mature age. So we're gonna go into that one now. Finally, we're gonna say now a type of lifestyle, figure 5.21. Let me check it. Figure 5.2, 5.21. 1 second. Okay. So at a mature age, all right, your lifestyle and employment determines your food requirements. So I think you say you discussed this already, the teacher, where you talk about, for example, if you're a active housewife, depending on what you do, you would have either more or less energy than a woman on a whole. Did you go through that?
Yes, sir.
Did you go through a specific graph that told you about, for example, if you are a laborer, like you work, you need more energy than a typical man? Did you go through that?
Not really, sir.
All right, so I have to go through it next class. Just remind me next class if you haven't gone through it yet. But essentially, what it says is just a graph. So what I'll do, Khalil, I'll just take a picture of the graph and I'll give you, and you can answer some questions for me easily. It's really just a graph that shows you, for example, the specific amount of energy you need if you're a working man compared to this unemployed man. But the final one, old age. In old age.
Sir, what is considered to be mature age, sir?
Well, when you're in your late 30s, right? 40s, that's a mature age. Or when you're in your 30s on a whole. Because by then your career should have been developed into a stable system. You should have beginning to prepare for a family or even have a family already. So that's where you begin to become mature. When you're in your 30s, 40s.
So like from 35 onwards, like from 35 up until 60 is considered to be mature age, right?
Right. So, yeah, exactly. But I'll put it to 35 to around 50. Around there, 55, around there. Because here's why. Depending on your culture, your age begins to show. Because, for example, black people, we typically don't really age as much as typical Caucasians. So you can really say we become old at a later age. Understand? In terms of our production and our active role, we really take a longer approach than typical persons. But in old age on a whole, for no matter how you look, right, you need to decrease macronutrients as your increase in growth stops and physical activity is reduced. Do you remember what macronutrients are? Khalil, do you remember what macronutrients are?
Yes, sir.
Right. So what are macronutrients again? Remind me.
Sir, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats.
Right. So as you get older, Khalil, you're saying in old age, you don't need these macronutrients because you're not expelling energy to where you would need to supplement. If you understand what I'm saying. So you basically need micronutrients such as vitamins, right? Minerals to ensure that because your growth is stopping and your physical activity is reduced, you basically need to sustain, not grow. So that's the difference. You need to sustain, not grow. Right. Now as a summary, I want you to answer these questions for me quickly. Hashtag activity. Why is breast milk such a good nutrient for a baby? Hashtag activity again. Right? What is anorexia nervosa? And then the final activity, Khalil, final one. What is the cause of atherosclerosis as well as defined obesity? Sounds good? So I can expect these by next week, right, Khalil?
Yes, sir.
Right. So if you're using the website, Khalil, you can find all the activities in one jump by going to filter and then select activity, and you can see your 4 activities for the weekend. So use the activities. There you go. So you see what are protective foods, define anorexic people and tell me what the causes are, what initiates these illnesses, right? And why is breast milk such a good nutrient for a baby, and what is anorexia nervosa. Sounds good?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any questions?
No, sir.
All right. This was a great class, Khalil. Once again, I do thank you for coming and always participating in classes. It's very applaudable. I want you to just ensure that you prepare for next week's classes. Prepare so you can be ahead of the class itself, right? Because you want to see your reward of coming to these classes pay off. So just ensure that you review what I taught you today, right? And prepare for the lessons that's going to teach next week so that you're ahead always. Understand? All right. Have a good weekend.